Hey Tony, welcome back to the show. Great to have you here today.
Hey Mark, always good to be here. I have a feeling this one's going to get people talking.
It absolutely will. Today we're going deep on Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's legendary right-hand man, one of the greatest investing minds of the 20th century, and someone whose philosophy on money goes way beyond just picking stocks.
And we're covering his most powerful and provocative ideas today. First, his concept of FU money, what it really means, why it's more about mindset than a number, and how you build toward it. Then we're going to tackle his famous rules about the math of freedom, why getting your first $100,000 is an absolute grind, and why he bluntly told a 30-year-old that true financial freedom requires $10 million.
Ideas that, on the surface, might seem different, but they're really part of the same roadmap. The mindset and the math, the starting line and the finish line, and together they give you the most complete picture of what financial freedom actually looks like through Munger's eyes. But before we get into his ideas, let's actually talk about the man himself, because I think a lot of people know the name Charlie Munger, but don't really know the story. And when you understand where he came from, his philosophy makes so much more sense.
Absolutely. Charlie Munger was born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1924, the same city as Warren Buffett, which is an interesting coincidence that eventually became one of the most consequential partnerships in financial history. But they didn't actually meet until 1959, when Munger was already 35 years old.
And by that point, Munger had already lived a remarkable life. He studied mathematics at the University of Michigan, then got drafted into the U.S. Army during World War II, trained as a meteorologist, and eventually made it to Harvard Law School, without even finishing his undergraduate degree. Harvard made an exception for him.
That tells you something about the man right there. He was so clearly exceptional that the rules bent around him. He graduated from Harvard Law in 1948 and became a very successful lawyer in California. Built a real estate law practice, made good money, was doing well by any reasonable standard.
But here's where the story gets really interesting and really relevant to everything we're going to talk about today. In 1953, when Munger was 29 years old, his marriage ended in divorce. And then just a few years later, his young son Teddy was diagnosed with leukemia. This was the 1950s. There was no treatment. Teddy died in 1955. He was just 9 years old.
And the way Munger talked about that period later in life is incredibly moving. He would walk to the hospital to visit his dying son, then walk home alone. No money for a taxi, no emotional support system the way we'd understand it today. Just grief and work, and the commitment to keep going.
That experience shaped everything about how Munger thought about life and money. He came to believe deeply that financial independence wasn't a luxury or a status symbol. It was armor. It was what let you face the worst that life throws at you without also being financially devastated on top of everything else.
And he rebuilt. He remarried in 1956, Nancy Burroughs, and they went on to have 5 more children together, adding to his 2 from his first marriage. 7 kids total. He was building a family, building a law practice, and slowly starting to invest on the side.
Because even while he was a successful lawyer, Munger had already figured out that law wasn't going to make him truly free. He famously said later that his best clients were himself, meaning the investments he made in his own name were more valuable than anything he earned in legal fees.
And so through the late 1950s and 1960s, he started winding down his legal career and transitioning into investing full-time. He ran a successful investment partnership through the 1960s that significantly outperformed the market. Then he met Buffett, and the rest is history.
When Munger joined Berkshire Hathaway as vice chairman in 1978, the company was a struggling textile mill. By the time Munger passed away in November 2023, just a month before his 100th birthday, Berkshire was one of the largest companies in the world, and Munger himself was worth roughly $2.6 billion.
But here's what's remarkable, and this is so Munger. He didn't live like a billionaire. He lived in the same house in Los Angeles that he bought in 1959. He drove himself to the office. He ate simple food. He read constantly, every single day. His wealth was almost incidental to how he actually lived.
And I think that's the most important biographical detail for understanding everything he taught about financial freedom. This was not a man who accumulated wealth to show off. He accumulated it to be free, to be able to do what he wanted, say what he thought, help who he chose, and live entirely on his own terms.
He proved with his actual life that the philosophy works. The discipline he preached, living below your means, investing patiently, never stopping learning. He practiced it for literally 70 years, and the results spoke for themselves.
Okay, with that context in mind, let's start with FU money, because I think this concept unlocks everything else. For anyone who hasn't heard the term, FU money is that financial cushion that gives you the power to walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. A toxic job, a bad deal, external pressure from anyone who has leverage over you because of your financial situation. And here's where Munger's take diverges from the way most people think about it. Most people hear FYOU money and immediately ask, how much is it? What's the number? But Munger would say, that's almost the wrong question.
Exactly. Because in Munger's philosophy, FYOU money isn't primarily a dollar amount. It's a process. It's a mindset. It's the cumulative result of disciplined habits, continuous learning, and patient investing over time. The money is the outcome, not the starting point.
That's a subtle but really important distinction. It means you can start building FYOU money today regardless of where you are financially. Not because you suddenly have a big pile of cash, but because you start making decisions differently.
Right. And Munger has this quote I keep coming back to: spend each day trying to be a little wiser than you were when you woke up. That incremental wisdom, applied to money, to investments, to decisions, compounds exactly like money does in a brokerage account.
So the daily choice to learn something, to avoid a stupid financial mistake, to resist lifestyle inflation, those are all deposits into your FU money account, even before the actual account balance reflects it.
And that reframe changes everything. Instead of feeling behind because you don't have a certain number, you focus on the process. Are you learning? Are you saving consistently? Are you investing patiently? If yes, you're building FYOU money regardless of where you are today.
Let's talk about what FYOU money actually does for you psychologically, because I think this is where Munger's philosophy gets really interesting.
This is my favorite part. When you're entrenched in scarcity thinking, when money worries dominate your mental bandwidth, every financial decision is made under stress, and stress makes you a terrible decision maker. You're reactive, emotional, short-term focused.
You panic sell investments at the bottom. You take on bad debt because you need cash now. You stay in a toxic work situation because you can't afford to say no. That's financial bondage, even if you have a decent income.
But as you build financial margin, even incrementally, something shifts. You start thinking more rationally. You can evaluate opportunities clearly instead of desperately. You can negotiate from a position of strength instead of need. Munger always insisted that money is a tool, not a master. FYOU money is what makes that true in practice, not just in theory.
And here's something Munger says that often gets overlooked. FYOU money shouldn't just be about selfish motives. When you have enough margin, you're in a stronger position to help others, family, friends, causes you care about. It becomes FYOU power, the ability to shape your life and impact others positively without being trapped.
I love that framing. It completely flips the narrative that having money is just self-serving. True financial freedom creates generosity capacity, not just personal freedom.
Let's talk about how you actually build it. Because mindset is great, but Munger is also ruthlessly practical. What does he say about the actual mechanics?
3 things, really. First, disciplined saving. Living below your means consistently. Not occasionally, not when it's convenient. Always. Lifestyle inflation is what Munger calls the silent enemy of FU money. Every time your income goes up, the temptation is to upgrade your lifestyle proportionally, and that kills your ability to build freedom.
The gap between what you earn and what you spend, that's the raw material of financial freedom. Widen that gap and you're building FYOU money. Narrow it and you're on the hamster wheel regardless of your income level.
Second, patient, value-oriented investing. Munger hates speculation. He hates chasing hot trends. He hates market timing. What he loves is buying quality businesses at rational prices and holding them long enough for compounding to do its work. He famously said, "It's better to avoid stupidity than to seek brilliance. Keep losses small, let winners grow."
And that connects directly to the third element, continuous learning. Munger developed what he calls a lattice work of mental models, frameworks from multiple disciplines that help you make better decisions. Psychology, economics, physics, history, biology. He reads voraciously across all of it.
Because without that knowledge base, you're making financial decisions blind. You don't understand the risks. You don't spot the opportunities. You can't evaluate what you're investing in clearly. And that leads to mistakes that set your FU money journey back years.
But before we talk about the ultimate finish line of financial freedom, we have to talk about the starting line. Because Munger has a very famous, very blunt rule about getting off the ground.
Right? The first major milestone. He famously said the first $100,000 is a bitch. And he wasn't kidding. He advised young people that you have to do whatever it takes to get there. Walk to work, don't eat out, save aggressively, clip coupons. You just have to get your hands on that first $100,000.
The reason he emphasized that specific number is because it's the critical mass where compound interest finally starts working for you in a visible way. When you have $5,000 invested, a 10% return is $500. It's nice, but it doesn't change your life. At $100,000, that same 10% return is $10,000. Suddenly, your money is working almost as hard as you are.
Exactly. Before $100, your wealth is built almost entirely by your own sweat and your savings rate. It's an absolute grind. You feel like you're sacrificing a lot for very slow progress. But once you cross it, you've essentially built the engine for your FU money. The math takes over.
Which is the perfect transition to the next big Munger idea today. Because once that engine is running, what's the actual destination? His concept of FU money eventually runs into a very specific, intimidating statement he made to a 30-year-old investor about the finish line. Tony, set up what he said.
So Munger was essentially told that someone wanted to achieve financial freedom through investing starting in their 30s. And Munger's response was characteristically brutal. He said that without $10 million, you can't genuinely achieve financial freedom through investing alone. That's a gut punch of a number for most people.
First reaction when you heard that?
Honestly, part of me thought it was discouraging, but the more I sat with it, the more I realized Munger isn't trying to crush your dreams. He's trying to give you an accurate map of the territory. He's been inside the financial world at the highest level for decades. When he says something is hard, it's worth taking seriously.
Let's unpack where $10 million comes from. It's not arbitrary. What's the math behind it?
It comes down to safe withdrawal rates. Financial planners often use a 3% to 4% annual withdrawal rate as a sustainable benchmark, meaning you can take out that percentage of your portfolio each year without depleting it over time, even accounting for market downturns and inflation. At 3%, a $10 million portfolio generates $300,000 per year in income. That's enough to cover virtually any reasonable lifestyle in most parts of the world, indefinitely.
And Munger's inclusion of that margin of safety reflects who he is as an investor. He's not saying what's the minimum you could survive on. He's saying what gives you true, uncompromised freedom, including the ability to absorb bad breaks.
Right. Healthcare shocks, market crashes, extended economic downturns, unexpected family needs. A $10 million cushion can absorb all of those without derailing your freedom. A $1 million cushion might not. That's the difference between what feels like financial freedom and what actually sustains it.
This connects directly to the FIRE movement. Financial independence, retire early, which has become enormously popular, especially with younger people. How does Munger's $10 million number square with what FIRE advocates are doing?
It's an interesting tension. Many FIRE practitioners are aiming for much less, sometimes $500,000 or $1 million, depending on their lifestyle. And they make it work through radical frugality, geographic arbitrage, part-time work, and accepting more lifestyle constraints.
Munger would probably say that's a narrower version of freedom, not the full thing. It works until it doesn't. Until a major medical event, a market downturn at the wrong time, or a significant life change disrupts the plan.
And I think he'd respect the discipline behind FIRE while being honest that it involves trade-offs that a $10 million portfolio doesn't. When you have that level of capital, you're essentially immune to lifestyle shocks. Your freedom is robust, not fragile.
Let's talk about the psychological dimension of the $10 million figure, because I think it cuts both ways.
It does. On one hand, it's motivating to understand the real stakes. You can't half-heartedly invest and expect genuine financial freedom. The seriousness of Munger's number matches the seriousness of the goal.
On the other hand, for a lot of people, that number feels paralyzing. If $10 million is the benchmark, why even start? Why bother if you can't realistically get there?
And this is where I think we have to push back gently on Munger's framing, or at least translate it for most people. His $10 million is the benchmark for absolute, uncompromised financial freedom, the kind where no life event can threaten your autonomy. But there's a whole spectrum between where you are today and $10 million, and every point on that spectrum represents more freedom than you had before.
Partial freedom is still freedom. $100,000 saved is more freedom than $10,000. $500,000 is more than $100,000. Every increment changes what you're able to say yes and no to.
Exactly. So the practical takeaway from Munger's $10 million isn't give up unless you can hit this number. It's understand what you're actually building toward, take it seriously, and celebrate every milestone on the way.
Let's get into some of the nuances of maintaining $10 million worth of freedom over time, because it's not just about hitting the number, it's about sustaining it.
Inflation is the first big one. The purchasing power of $10 million today won't be the same in 30 years. Your portfolio's returns have to outpace inflation consistently, or your freedom slowly erodes. That's why Munger is so focused on quality businesses that grow earnings and dividends over time. They protect purchasing power in a way that bonds or cash simply can't.
Healthcare is another massive wild card, especially in countries without universal coverage. People dramatically underestimate lifetime healthcare costs. One serious illness or long-term care situation can devour years of savings. Munger's $10 million buffer explicitly accounts for that unpredictability.
Tax efficiency is critical too. The difference between a smart tax strategy and an ignorant one can be hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Money that either compounds in your portfolio or disappears to taxes. Maxing out tax-advantaged accounts, understanding long-term capital gains treatment, estate planning. These aren't optional if you're serious about sustaining financial freedom.
And location matters more than people realize. $300,000 per year goes very differently in San Francisco versus a mid-sized city in the Midwest, or compared to certain countries abroad. Geographic arbitrage can effectively make a smaller portfolio generate the same real standard of living as Munger's benchmark.
So the lesson isn't you need exactly $10 million no matter what. It's understand the variables that determine your number, lifestyle, location, health, legacy goals, and build toward that with Munger's discipline and patience.
Speaking of legacy goals, there's an important distinction between personal financial freedom and legacy wealth. Munger's $10 million is oriented around your own lifetime freedom. If you also want to leave significant assets to children, grandchildren, or causes, the number goes up.
And that raises a question worth sitting with. What are you actually building for? Just your own autonomy? Or something that outlasts you? Both are valid, but they require different strategies and potentially different numbers.
Let's bring it all together with some practical steps, because I don't want people to walk away from this conversation feeling like Munger's wisdom is only for billionaires.
Start with the basics that make everything else possible. Spend less than you earn every month, non-negotiably. Eliminate high-interest debt aggressively. Build an emergency fund so you're not forced to liquidate investments at bad times.
Then grind to that first $100,000. Do whatever it takes to build that initial engine. Once you're there, invest consistently in quality diversified assets. Low-cost index funds are Munger approved for most people. You're betting on the overall growth of great businesses without paying high fees or taking concentrated risk.
Max out tax-advantaged accounts first. 401k, Roth IRA, HSA, if you have access. These are legal wealth-building shortcuts that too many people underuse.
And invest in your own earning capacity. The fastest way to accelerate toward FU money or $10 million is to increase what's coming in. That might be negotiating your salary, developing valuable skills, building a side income, anything that widens the gap between income and spending.
And read. Munger reads for hours every day. He attributes a huge portion of his success to continuous learning. You don't have to match that pace, but if you're not consistently educating yourself about money, business, and the world, you're flying blind.
The final practical piece: check your lifestyle inflation ruthlessly. Every time your income grows, the path of least resistance is to spend more. Resist it. Redirect those raises and bonuses into your freedom fund instead of your lifestyle. That discipline is, in Munger's view, one of the most important financial habits you can build.
And celebrate the milestones. Getting to $100, building FYOU money, and reaching $10 million are long games. You need to acknowledge progress along the way or you'll lose motivation. Every $10,000 saved is a step. Every debt eliminated is freedom recovered. Every year of consistent investing is compounding at work.
To bring everything together, Munger's path to freedom is a masterclass in reality. Getting the first $100 is a bitch. True, uncompromised freedom requires massive capital. But FU money isn't just about cash. It's about the mindset, the discipline, and the process that create genuine autonomy along the entire journey.
Between those ideas, you have everything you need to think about financial freedom the way Munger thinks about it. Big picture philosophy meets hard-nosed numbers. Mindset meets math.
Before we sign off, here's our question for you. Are you currently on the grind for your first $100, or are you building toward your ultimate FU money number? And do you think Munger's $10 million figure is the right benchmark for true freedom? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to hear where you stand.
Can't wait to read those. Thanks so much for spending this time with us today.
Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and keep moving toward your own version of freedom.
See you next episode.